everybody. Welcome to Karate is Dead, the podcast. I'm your host, Duval, and we have a unique and special guest today. But before we go into our guest, I would like for you to share these podcasts with your friends and anybody else who trains in the martial arts. So please, today, when you can, share, like, and subscribe so you can catch every interview that comes across this platform. But anyway, today our guest is a titan in the martial arts world. He's a Shion, also in the Phoenix Karate Association, and a cornerstone in the Kyokushin community. With decades of blood, sweat, and discipline behind him, he has dedicated his life to preserving the strongest karate while evolving it for the modern era. Today, we're going to deep dive into the personal journey and the martial arts world and the traditional path that holds weight in a digital age with Hanshi Anthony Codispoti. Thank you for joining us today.
Oos, thank you for having me. There's not many things that I would prefer to be doing, and this is one of them, is talking about the martial arts and Kyokushin, so I appreciate the opportunity.
Yes, I love it. I love it. So our past guests, we've only have about 5 or 6 episodes, and at least 5 of them have been Kyokushin practitioners. So
Oh, great.
this podcast is evolving into a Kyokushin podcast very fast.
That's not a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing. I love it. I love it. So looking back in your earliest days in the dojo, what was the specific spark or moment that made you realize that Kyokushin was a lifelong calling rather than just a hobby?
Well, that's a good question. I would say when when I was younger, I'm 57, so when you go back, 40 plus odd years ago, there wasn't a lot of martial arts schools around where I lived. I lived in a very rural area, and it just wasn't there. And so I really was searching for, I really wanted to learn how to fight. What did that mean when I was 7, 8, 9, 10? All it really meant was I wanted to be able to defend myself. I was a small person, definitely bullied and picked on when I was younger, but I was super tenacious and pretty tough kid, but I didn't have the skill set. And I remember telling all this to my grandmother, and she said to me, well, we're going to go to the bookstore. And we go to the bookstore, and she brought me to the karate section. There's all these karate books. And I literally pulled a karate book, and I still have the book today. This karate book, right?
Wow.
Yep, I have it. And I sent it to him, and he signed it for me. But
Wow.
anyway, so I'm in my bedroom. I'm like 8, 9, 10 years old, and all of these crazy things in the book. So I'm doing Jodan UKs and punching, and there's circles in the book for the knuckles, and I have no idea what all this means, hit with knuckles and all that. So I did that for years, and then I had some little interactions here and there with the martial arts in people's basements and things like that. But when I got to college, I went to Mount St. Mary's University in Emmitsburg, Maryland, and I saw a poster that said interested in karate, called this number, and I did. And Michael Sheehan, who was one of our senpai, he said, "Yeah, come on, just meet us, tomorrow night. We're going to meet in the gym." And so I went, and I had no idea what I was stepping into. And I always find myself I'm so grateful that this was my first interaction in the martial arts, because I didn't know anything different other
Right.
than bare knuckle, bare shin,
Right.
and we train hard, and we train with purpose, and we sweat. And that was the culture back then. It was a contact, oriented culture. And did I know it was for life? I don't know, but I do know it called my name, and I was, my dream or my focus was okay. I'm going to play on the golf team. I was playing rugby at the time, and then finally, I'm like, you know what? That all has to stop. I'm doing this.
Mm. And not many people who at a young age during that time who athletes, they were in different sports, would, or in my circles, really dedicated themselves to like this one thing. Yes, basketball. Okay. In New York, we in New York City, we're not a football city. We're a basketball city. Outside of
Right.
that, there is really nothing else for guys to dedicate themselves to. But I mean, we kind of had similar passion, you know. And but you definitely made it to the right one. That's
I
amazing.
did.
It's
I did.
amazing. So you've seen martial arts, the landscape change drastically over decades. So what is the one principle from your early training that you refuse to let go today?
Train hard and often, period.
Mm,
Train hard and often. I think that, you know, when I grew up coming in, when I started under Concho Dan Solar, you know, that was the core, right? We show up, we train. And one of the things that we have evolved over the years is, you know, I think the training back then was so rigorous and so hard. You know, the contact was hard and all that. I think we were too tough on the beginners. So it was only the tough survived back then. And then as we've evolved, we're trying to keep the integrity of that same discipline, contact, discipline of training, but we're trying to crawl before we walk, before we run, because we really truly think back and say, how many people did we really preclude from training in this wonderful style because we beat it out of them and they're like, this isn't for me. So I've really changed that. Like white belts, very limited contact, except through, you know, your the training in the class, right? And then it evolves.
yeah.
So I think that's changed a lot. But I will say train hard and often has to be the mantra. And I will tell you, at 57 years old, you know, I get that question all the time. How can you still do, right?
All
How can
right.
you still do? And I say, because I never stopped.
Mm,
And you know, my Concho, he's been such a wonderful influence on me because I watched a man who never stopped. He
mhm.
believed in staying fit. He stayed active. He added in other things. Sometimes he's going through a cycle. Hey, I got to stretch more. So he's stretch, stretch, stretch. Oh, I need to do more bag work, bag, bag, bag. And he just kept going. And he's almost 70 years old. And he's the pinnacle of what we all want to be. So my role modeling has been very, very good. And my goal, too, as a teacher, I wanted to be that. I didn't want to be the 57-year-old guy that couldn't do it. And I still believe to this day that there's still great days ahead of me.
Beautiful, beautiful. How let's now swing a little bit and let's talk about the Phoenix Way.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit and give us, for those who don't know, about the Phoenix Way and their philosophy and who actually started that. I think it's good information for people to know.
Sure. So I am my organization that I'm a part of is the Phoenix Karate Do Association International, right? So we're part of Phoenix Karate Do, and I am here in New Jersey, and I of course wanted to do something. I wanted to teach, and it really started by accident. I was in a room. I started training with one person, and the next day I opened my eyes. There's 50 people in a room, and I'm like, "How did I get here?" And so now I'm like, "Okay, this is real." And so I remember approaching my teacher. You know, we have these guidebooks, and this one's the Phoenix Way, a Kyokushin Karate Master text. So what's interesting about Phoenix is that we have a solid curriculum. You know, we do have a board, and we do have structure and organization. And it was called the Phoenix Way. And I remember, I'm like, I just love that. And you know, and let me just make one comment. You know, I get often from, you know, when you put yourself out there on social media, I get a lot of, that's not Kyokushin. Kyokushin, that your belts are wrong. That's not Kyokushin. That's not that. And I said, let me stop you for a moment. It's the Phoenix Way.
There you go.
And so we are rooted in Kyokushin. we bear the kanji. We the roots and foundation is Kyokushin. But I went to him and I said, "Can I name my school the Phoenix Way?" And it was like a big deal amongst everybody. Like, what is he doing? He's going to name it the Phoenix. And I did, and I'm really happy that I did name it the Phoenix Way. And when I embarked on my own school, I had a little bit of my own flair because I started with the Gracies in Manhattan like 20 years ago. I did stick fighting, knife fighting, judo. I mean, everything that I thought could lend to the ability to defend myself, I absorbed myself in, but I never lost the roots and foundation of Kyokushin. That was that was it for me. And even today, although can I do the ground? Yes. Can I do all these other modalities? 100%. But when people come to me, I tell them flat out, I specialize in stand-up striking. That's who I am. I'm not going to pretend that I'm anything other than that. And I feel that I'm good at it. And I feel that, that's where I'm at in my life, that I want more of the world to see how great Kyokushin is.
Absolutely.
And although, it's interesting what we're seeing in, now we're getting a lot more creed out there that we're a legitimate fighting style. And where people are going wrong about, but Kyokushin doesn't punch to the face. Well, you're wrong. Tournament style Kyokushin doesn't punch to the face. Mm-hmm. The Phoenix Way punches to the face. Mm-hmm. But we're also pragmatic. We all have to work the next day. Right. And to think you're going to do this kind of style and punch each other bare knuckle to the face is just, it's idiotic. It's ridiculous, right? So unless you're padded up, you can go to the face. And if not, we're back to the traditional body shots. And even when I am sparring, Shion, I'm still throwing up to the face. I'm just not landing them, right? It's control. So I do think, the Phoenix Way was established so that I could do really the three pillars, I call it. I want to, if somebody wants to learn a functional skill of self-defense, get in great shape, and be around a wonderful community of people, that would be the Phoenix Way.
Right. It's beautiful because I know what you're talking about when the more, and I just want to tag them as the more traditional Kyokushin, they still have not arrived yet. They're still standing in one position. They have not moved on because I think I've read something somewhere, or I might have heard a high-ranking Kyokushin person say this, that Oyama wanted people or instructors to kind of develop their version of Kyokushin. Like the Kyokushin is the base, the root, but then develop your version of what he created.
Yes, I think that, as you have to remember, this is karate for life for me. And, when you go on this journey, it has to evolve. It has to change. And the way that I was in my 20s, I only cared about one thing. I want to hit it and I want to break it. Mm. And then my teacher really kind of drove into me. I remember I always had that mentality. I'll beat up everybody in the room. And I remember he took me aside and he goes, "Let me tell you something, little boy. You can't beat the room." Mm. And I didn't really understand that until, in our school, it's one big circle. We call it the Ring of Oyama. And that's when we know we get to get after it. You have one person overseeing. It's not round robins where we're going 20, 30%. This is big ring. You're going to get after it. Right. And he beat me to a pulp. Ooh. And it was just one man in, one man out, one in, one out. And I learned very quickly, I can't beat the room. Right. So it's putting your ego at check. And then Kata became very prevalent. That was a cycle where, I grew up, and still to this day, people make fun of Kata and all that. And I see the great beauty and the great what ifs. And I think Kata has made me who I am today, because I always tell people, Kata does not lie. You can get away with being sloppy in kumite in your fighting. you can get away with it when you're throwing your kicks, when you're using momentum and speed to get the kicks up. But when you are performing and you've got to snap that side thrust, well, we all have eyes.
Yeah,
We
right.
all know. And you could do this kata beautifully. Everything is perfect. Power, form, speed, all of it's there. But you throw that crappy side thrust, it just destroys the whole kata, right? And so I remember when it was Peanut Soto Yan. You had to do the side thrust into an elbow. And I was like, God, I just look awful. And I remember being like obsessed with like, okay, what do I have to do to be great at that kick? And well, it just came down to what's going to be my method of operation to authentically get that kick where it needs to be. And that means I had to train. And I had to train when nobody was looking, and I had to do the things that nobody was willing to do to get that. I wasn't like naturally gifted with all this stuff. Like I just didn't wake up with a stretch, right?
Right, right.
So kata became a great progression. And then as I've gotten older, you realize that the old Kyokushin style does not work for a 57-year-old guy. Angles are important. Being very good at sweeping is important. Understanding your control, distance, and all this. So I still can evolve at 57 and be relevant on the mat. And what's even cooler, Shion, is where the children and adults are seeing me evolve at 55, 56, 57, 58. They're seeing some really cool stuff. And guess what? They're now like, well, I could do that if he could do it.
Right, right. If the old
And
man could do it, I could do it, right?
yeah. And so now I'm like, wow, like 30-year-old person who I've been training since they were 7 is now incorporating these things. I wasn't even there at 30 to do what these kids are doing.
Right.
So I'm proud of that. You asked. I think the title of your podcast was "Karate is Dead," and it's interesting. If I would say if it's trained, honestly, with pressure, purpose, and real intent, karate's not dead.
Right.
And I do believe Kyokushin, it exemplifies all that. If I hit it, will it break? And I think to be devoid of contact doesn't really make it real. Now, I do tell people, I think there's so many awesome martial arts out there. But when we talk about honesty, I say, just be honest about what you really can do. If you're in a point sparring situation, don't tell me that you're a full contact fighter.
Right.
If you are doing, some other things that are very theatric, please don't tell me like, oh, that's the dim muck death touch and you're going to kill me with that strike. Be honest, because I think all of these arts are awesome. And if it calls your name, you go do it. Right.
So now that we're talking about the karate is dead quotes, right? Air quotes. In the age of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Muay Thai as being dominant, as the most dominant art forms today, how does Kyokushin remain relevant for someone who's looking for real self-defense?
I think now more than ever is the time where we lead that charge. I think, I'm trying, I don't want to say trying, right? Trying's lying. I am definitely out there trying to promote this as a true, viable stand-up striking art. And when you start talking about like why is Muay Thai so popular? Is it because it's the greatest stand-up striking, or did they kind of jump on that bandwagon earlier on, and they coupled with BJJ schools, and I see it predominantly BJJ, Muay Thai, and now it's our time to creep into those schools. And I will tell you, I do get a lot of Muay Thai guys saying, well, yeah, it's a much different look fighting you as a Kyokushin guy. We're heat's eating legs, and we're taking leg shots that the average guy in the martial arts just don't want to eat. right? But
Mhm.
this is our culture. This is who we are. And I do think I think I love it that this kicking championship, this leg
Yeah, I
kicking
see
championship,
the low leg
it,
kicking championships. Yes.
yes, it's exposing a few things. People always act like, oh, Muay Thai, the legs, the leg kickers, and they're strong. Well, who's winning all these tournaments?
Yeah.
The Kyokushin guys. And so you have like little things like that that's starting to like gives us a little bit more creed, a little bit more presence. We're almost at whatever 50,000 people on Facebook following us. So now it's giving us a little bit more creed, a little bit more exposure, right? And that's what we need, more exposure. But more importantly, we need quality.
Right.
Like we don't need the quality is what people are looking for. There's some awesome Muay Thai people. And if you look at Kyokushin, look at the world tournaments. Like you're looking at the top 1, 2, 3% of the world. They are awesome.
Yeah.
What they can do. I mean, you can't tell me a full contact Kyokushin fighter can't hold its own against any full contact Muay Thai guy.
Right.
Now, barring the Kyokushin guy understands face, right?
Yes.
That's the difference.
Yes.
So get your mind out of tournaments, get your mind into reality, full contact fighting to the face.
Right.
We got a complete fighter.
Yeah.
And I mean stand up fighter.
Right.
And because then we got to talk about the other things to make us
The
complete.
ground stuff. Yeah, I get it. So, do you think uh, companies like Karate Combat is a good thing? Because just this past week they had a Muay Thai versus Kyokushin guy, and it was probably, I think it was the one of the better fights that was on the card. The Kyokushin guy actually lost, but he lost on a decision. But he did show a lot of fight spirit, like he wasn't backing down. And as a matter of fact, they had several. They had, I think, at least 2 or 3 Kyokushin guys fight on that card from Russia. And the one guy, I believe he's the current middleweight champion. He did his thing. But the other guy who fought the Muay Thai guy, like I said, he lost on a decision. But that fight was a good fight. And so, with that being said, what do you think is the one thing that karate offers a practitioner that a pure combat sport like MMA might lack?
Well, I will tell you one thing: longevity.
Mm.
And, I will tell you, when I was younger, I kept telling my teacher, like, oh, I'm going to go do this tournament. I'm going to do that. And he's like, no, you're not. I'm like, and I remember how mad I used to be at him. And he said to me, what are you here for? I said, well, this was when I was at the Mount St. Mary's. I said, well, education, I'm a business major. And he goes, you've always told me one thing. And he goes, and you're a consistent guy. He goes, you want to make money. And I said, yeah, I want to make money because I didn't have a lot of money, right? I need to make money. And he said, I want you to focus there. He said, and he was trying to explain to me early on, even if you win, Anthony, in these tournaments, he goes, you're losing. These are more miles on the body, miles.
Mm.
And if you're going to train for life, maybe you get out of full contact fighting early enough where you're not beat up. But the majority of the time, Shihan, most of the full contact guys that I know from early on were done by like 35.
Right.
And a lot of them don't fight anymore. I mean, excuse me, they don't train anymore.
Okay.
And I just spoke to my concho about this morning, and I said, hey, I gotta continuously thank you for keeping me on the path, because I don't know where I would be at 57. I don't know if I'd have the same impact on others, the same impact on my life if I was broken at a very young age from fighting that much. Now, don't get me wrong. I fought everywhere and anywhere. I fought in parks. I fought in dojos. I fought different styles. I fought with motorcycle helmets on. I fought everywhere I could possibly fight to pressure test me.
Yeah.
I didn't do it in that ring. Irrelevant. But I do know where I am today. And I I got into the finance world. I've been in finance for over 30 years. It's given me the opportunity to make the money that I really wanted to enable me to do what I really love and have the impact, which is the martial arts.
Beautiful. I think when we talk about, and you mentioned something very important that I talked about to someone at the earlier part of this week. I said to them that when you see those guys on the world stage fighting world tournaments, those guys they're pretty young. They're like early 20s, and a lot of them are first and second degree. And third degrees, they start thinning out. Like those ranks start thinning out at that level, and it's a big toll on the body. It's a big toll on the body.
Huge.
It's not just somebody who's coming to the dojo once or twice, maybe three times a week. They're literally training every single day, like all day long, to train to reach that big stage over in Japan.
People have no clue. They watch videos and all that crap, but when you have to do, a continuous, like Phoenix is continuous fighting. So for our testing, it's one man in, and you're done when the test is over.
Right.
So each test has a period of time. Let's call it blue belts 10 minutes, green belt 15, purple 20, and so forth.
Yeah.
But the reality is, you're in the grind. I mean, people have no idea what 10 minutes full, like that. When we say full contact, am I in there trying to knock out the tester? No, but we're pushing him pretty darn hard. And it's a human endeavor to get through some of these tests. But it's the layering. We talked about the crawl before you walk, before you run. When you're a blue belt, or let's say yellow belt, and you sparred your couple minutes, it was hard. Your blue belt, 10 minutes. It was hard. 15, 20, you get to your black belt, an hour continuous sparring.
Yeah.
Like, who could ever have imagined one man in and having that indomitable will and spirit to finish, just to drive yourself to the finish line? And I find that that's the beauty of Kyokushin and what we've kind of developed with the style.
Yeah. I think a lot of people don't really, like you said, don't really understand. They think, okay, 10 minutes of fighting, 15 minutes of fighting. Oh, that's just 10 or 15 minutes. But when somebody is wailing on you, that 10 minutes feel like 30 minutes. 15
Oh, and
minutes feel like an hour.
here's one thing that I, you and I talked about it. We talked about the keyboard warriors.
Yes.
And, I really had to evolve on social media because, I went from hiding from the world for, 35 years to all of a sudden, like, posting a video. Like, oh, what are they going to say? What are they going to do? Right. And in the early stages, people were so brutal. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, wow, there's somebody that can appreciate this.
Right.
And then it was like, then it grew and then it grew and then it grew and it grew. Next thing you know, you got videos that are 20,000, 30,000, 50,000 views. And all of a sudden, maybe there's one goofy comment, and then now all your followers are converging on them. So I don't even have to say anything anymore. Right. And, but, I just feel that, I think at this stage of the game, I think we do, when we talk about like social media and things like, and even what you're doing with the podcast, like this is really big to try to push the narrative forward about Kyokushin. And, when we talk about Kyokushin, I do think that the beauty of it is still the traditional aspect of wearing that gi, understanding what is the kanji, ultimate truth. What does the truth mean to you? Right. And I think all of those things are so important. And a lot of people were thrown off by the gi
Yeah.
until, but I am seeing a shift where they're okay with it.
Right. I think you made a good point because I think in today's generation, people are kind of trying to put away the tradition because tradition to them means that's my grandfather, that's my dad, right? And I know more than him because I live in a modern world, right? But again, as you mentioned, Kyokushin is relevant today. And let's dig deep a little bit into the social media. So your name to fame on in the social media world was your two
Yeah.
students, the females, the two female,
Yes.
two women. Excuse my correctiveness. The two women that were fighting really hard, and it was
Yeah.
beautiful. I mean, excellent technique. That was basically kind of put the Phoenix Way into the social media world. Um, at times, do you feel that social media has helped or hurt the reputation of Kyokushin globally? How has it hurt? How has it helped
Yeah.
Phoenix Way? And then, or has it hurt it anyway? In
What
go,
I think, what I do believe is that people aren't diving deep enough to look at certain videos that are online and you can clearly see, oh, that's a tournament style school versus a non-tournament style school. And I think that that's part of my big message is, the tournament style is what is, I think, hurting. As beautiful as it is and we love it, I think that's what's hurting our development because it's got the stigma. I get all the time online, like, oh my God, you're awesome, you're this, you're that, I love it. Oh, I would, but you don't punch to the face.
right,
Like, like, like I've done videos, I've done, responses. I'm like, how many more times can I tell you, you know, we don't punch bare knuckles to the face, right? So what are the good things? I think that when you find someone, and I can only speak for me, right? I'm trying to be relevant. I'm trying to evolve. I'm trying to use things that actually work. So it's funny. A lot of times you got the people online like that'll never work. I've never done a video that I don't do. Like I've got like please believe me, Shion. This isn't like the toot my own horn. I can
right,
only tell you what I do,
right.
backed by 40 years of this.
Yes,
I've sparred thousands of hours, thousands of rounds,
right,
hundreds and hundreds of people, different styles, different body types, small, big, athletic, fast, slow. I've fought so many different people. So I've gotten a lot of different looks. And so when I put a video online, I am telling you, I've done it. I
yes,
do it. This is what I do. And because I am like, I guess I have a little bit of like, I don't want to put that up if it doesn't work. If I'm going to if somebody's going to watch my video and say, hey, I'm going to go to the dojo and try that tomorrow. I'm so like hell bent on this, that it works for me. If you really want to do this and you tried it and it wasn't working, send me a video. I said, I'll zoom right into your classroom and let's work it.
yeah,
Like, because not to be like, hey, I am right.
right.
I'm just saying, like, are you really training it? Because, people are really brutal on like, that'll never work. That'll never work on the street. Oh my God. Like, there's a big difference between dojo sparring and reality based self defense on the street. Like, come on, like, give me a break.
Yeah. Like you, I'm a pretty much camera shy guy, right? So, how did you overcome some of the keyboard warriors out there who critique traditional techniques from behind the screen?
I had to crawl before I walked,
Yeah.
before I ran, because when the comments start coming, like I would get like I would be like, I'm like, oh my God. And sometimes I was responding with an edge and I
Right,
would get an edge back.
right,
And then I was getting threats, death threats. You can't outrun a bullet. I'm gonna meet me at your school September 23rd because I'll be there. Like, show me how tough. I was getting all that, and I said, okay.
wow,
My conscious said to me, he goes, Anthony, you've put yourself out there,
yeah,
and you have to put yourself out there for the good and the bad. So
mhm,
how are you going to respond to that? So I started just saying to people whenever they said anything not very kind, I would just say, hey, thank you for your comment.
that's it.
And people were just like, whoa. And then other people were like, that was so classy, that was great, da, 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 da. And then I remember one person stuck out to me. He was vile. He made a comment about the Taylor and Chloe video fighting, and now that's been viewed multiple millions of times. and he said something vile, and I was like, oh my god, like this kid, like. So I fired back, and he fired back, blah blah blah, and then I'll kill you too, and I'll do this, and then I said, you know what, Ian, send him a message. And I remember I said, Colin, I said, is everything okay, pal? I says, I'm a little concerned, and I really meant it. I don't know why I did it, but I did it. And he sent me back like this whole thing. I reread everything I said. I apologize. That was awful. I'm going through such a hard time in my life. And we had this great dialogue. And he thanked me. Thank you so much for, for caring to say what you did. And that's when I said, Aunt, you cannot respond harshly to people, and give them a little levity. And that's it. And that's when I give it. I don't go after people online.
Right. I mean
And
that.
but you asked, like, what made me start doing a video? Like,
Yeah.
I had one student said to me, "Why are you not posting this stuff?" I was like, "No, I don't want to do it." He's like, "No, no, no, I'm going to post something." And then it was like, I posted one video and it was like 50,000 views. I'm like, "Oh, all right, well, let's try another."
Right.
And then like the next one was like there was another one on there that popped off in the millions. It was the Jake and Derek fight. That was the one where Jake is pretty big, Derek's a little bit smaller, and Jake and them were getting after it, and they're friends.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
Jake swept him and just dropped Derek, boom, on the floor, and oh Jesus! And he gets back up and kept fighting, and it just went millions of views
Right.
and a lot of comments and all that crap. And then then one right after that was, I had done something in a suit,
Okay.
and I was doing a photo shoot for my other business, and the photographer said, "Hey, can you kick and punch in this thing?" And I
I
was like,
saw that one.
"Yeah." So I was like, "Yeah, I could do this," and I was like throwing kicks up and
Right. I
everything,
saw that
and
one.
somebody was videoing it, and I didn't know it. And he sends me the video later, and I says, "Oh my god!" He's like, "You gotta post it." I'm like, no, I don't know." And he's like, "Just do it." And I was like, "This." Click, posted. I didn't want to send it. And what did that get? Like 10 million, 20 million views or whatever
Oh
it
my
was.
God.
So you just don't know what's going to hit on social media. Everything's so, but my point really is that if you want to have impact, you have to put yourself out there.
Right.
And what I'm learning now more than ever is I need to be more on camera on there, meaning I need to speak more. Like, I think I just did one. It was like a 40-second video just about bullying and
Yes.
the engagement with parents. And like, it was like, boom, pops off. You see all the comments, like people are responding because now you're humanizing who you
Right.
are. Besides just being this avatar online,
Right.
you're now humanizing the thing. I think one time I did a walk into the dojo, and I had like the kind of music playing, and that thing popped off. And I'm like, why did it do so well? And people are like, because it was humanizing. You were
Right.
showing, like, you unlocked the dojo door.
Right.
You showed us the pictures on your wall. You
Right. Exactly.
humanized the experience. And those are the things that I have to get better at if if it's going to help me to get more views and to get more followers and to get more exposure to what we do.
Right. I mean, that makes sense because a lot of times people want to see their leaders, their shions, their hanshis, their conchos in an everyday, regular life. Like the one that you just recently posted. You were just simply driving and talking, just simply
Yes.
driving and talking. And that's
Yeah.
like you said, it's humanizing. It's like, oh man, the Hanshi's a real person. Like he thinks like me, you see?
Yeah. Should I
So
do some videos of me like sweeping the dojo and throwing things out and,
exactly.
lamenting over like it's just that. And that's another humanizing thing. Like, people want to see the behind the scenes.
Right.
And, if I really could go back, and maybe I'm still in the process of, I think it would be awesome to be able to have multiple cameras going at the same time, just like a reality TV show, because the magic is not really the class. It's what happens before and
Right.
after.
Right.
And what's the beauty of the community? People come in, they're excited, they're energized. It doesn't matter how bad their life may be today on the outside, their car broke down, their spouse just left them, whatever it may be, right? But when they come in there, like that's the Superman, that's your fortress of solitude. We can come here, get together as a group, support each other, and train really hard. And then afterwards, it's like the glow of training. We're drenched. We're talking about, oh, did so and so, did you see that sweep? And I loved what we did. And everybody's talking. And I would like to capture a little bit more of that so people can see, like, why should you be a part of a real life community versus a online community? Well, I can just go to YouTube and I can learn how to punch on YouTube, and no. You cannot replace in-person training.
Right. Absolutely. 100%. That I totally agree with you with that. I mean, it's one thing to learn from a book, another thing to learn from YouTube, but it's another thing to actually go into the presence of the school or the dojo to interact with not only the instructor, but the student base also. Like, essentially, when you're training there long enough, these people become your family. It's not just like
100%.
that's just a person. It's family
Yes.
now, brother or sister, acting dad, or uncle. This one Brazilian jiu-jitsu instructor, he here in the DFW area, he told me this very interesting thing. He said, Duval, he said the most important part of the training is what your students are doing right now. They're all sitting and huddling in their little groups, talking. And they may not be talking about the day's training. They might be talking about, hey, man, you kicked me in the leg. That hurt. They could talk about their injuries, but they're talking about other things too, like life and their families and stuff like that. And he told me that is right there is the most important part of the training right there.
That's part of the three pillars for us. It's the community.
Mm,
And listen, who doesn't want to be wanted? Who
that's right.
doesn't want to be a part of something bigger than them? And it's interesting. Phoenix has three Gashukas a year. We have our spring, summer, and the fall. And those three events, a Gashuka was really meant for the community to gather and for everybody to get on the mat and sweat together. It's not, I'm a eighth degree black belt and you're a white belt and you're irrelevant, because the relevance to any organization is really the strength of your white belts. We don't have a community. We're nothing without them. I'm
Right.
just some guy with a belt.
Mm,
So, I do see that significance. So I do find through Phoenix that we have those three mandatory meetings every year. And the Gashukas are, maybe 3 hours and then a social after, which is always fun.
right.
And then, so we just had our spring one here last weekend, and it was, and we, what we did?
What's that?
We trained.
That's it.
We sweat our ass off, and that was it. And what I find in our community, people don't want to be, by the way, we did cover full kihon, full kumite, full drilling, walking the floor, sparring, and all that. But the commonality is people want to train hard.
Yeah.
And I think that is one problem that Kyokushin has.
Mm,
The common denominator in any Kyokushin school is we all train hard.
yeah.
We train hard. And a lot of people, that could be their boundary to entry, is the training hard. And it's, us as teachers, can we develop them and keep them until they do, they can get past that and realize, like, the great what ifs of staying with this for life. And when you ask, like, what's the difference between MMA and karate and what we do, is I feel like there's a very short lifespan in MMA. It
Mm,
doesn't mean that you can't do it for life, but what more is there to the MMA? At least with what we have with the karate is, we are on this never-ending journey for perfection. We are working on our kata, and I could authentically be working kata, which is working my cardio, my strength, my flexibility, my movement, all those things, power, form, speed, and I can be relevant still and training hard. You have the basic keyhone, just driving through those. And yes, can I still spar? 100%. But can I dictate the level of contact? Absolutely.
Right, yeah. So with all of this being said, we've talked about your history, we talked about Phoenix Way, we talked about social media, and we also talked about the Kyokushin within itself. With all of that, but we've talked about where do you see Kyokushin in 20 years from now? Do you think that it's going to be remain this hardcore niche style, or do you think it's going to go to that Olympic style that a lot of other organizations are trying to push? Like, where do you see Kyokushin within the next 5, 10, 20 years?
Well, you know, I've spent the greater part of my life here in Kyokushin, developing others. And what I was just thinking about this week because I have many students that started with me at 6, 7, 8 years old, and now they're 25, 30 years old, and they're remarkable martial artists. They're remarkable human beings. They're doing wonderful things. And, I have YouTube. I know what's out there. Right?
Yeah,
You know what's out there. I have such a unbelievable core group of young individuals. So the question really isn't, I can't really answer where it's going to be. What I'm trying to answer today is how am I going to get them to do what I'm doing? How can they make the big difference? What are they going to do to pick up this torch and run with it? Because if this core group goes out there and does their thing, it could be just them can start a movement because they're so talented.
right,
And more importantly, we have to evolve beyond the ring. We have to believe, you know, all of these things that we're developing our students on the mat is, are they transcending those, beliefs from the mat into the real world? And I think that was the message my concho was trying to tell me when I was younger. Do you want to be all about the fighting, get beat up, maybe not continue this for life, and not go on to have a fruitful career and be able to have high impact because of the money that you've made and the donations you've done, and giving you the lifestyle to train and to do what you're doing? So I think the question really is, it's going to really come down to what I believe is, will this next generation pick up the torch from us
right,
and take it further? Because there's a whole other level that it needs to go if it's going to be prominent.
right. So what's the future for Phoenix, the organization? What's in store?
Well, I think, with Phoenix as a whole, I do think that, we've never had the mindset that we're going to be the biggest organization. I think that to have a very solid core group of individuals was always, with train with great purpose, be around a good community of people. And I think that's where we are. But I think right now for me, because I'm not that age, I'm at 57, encroaching on my 60s, it's really trying to figure out, okay, who's going to really authentically pick up that ball and continue what I'm going to do, what I've done.
And so finally, the last question, and you touched on the age thing, and this is important too, because sometimes I get a lot of emails that people who want to train, but they think that their age is something that's going to hold them back. So for the person who's listening, and that they feel that they're too old or it's too late to start this journey, what is your message to them?
I would tell them to train. I think if you find the right teacher that has the right culture and understands that this is something that you want to do, the teacher has to understand, like, that old style, that old way of getting people into Kyokushin. It's over. You have to do what I said. You got to crawl before you walk, before you run. And
Mm,
I would tell anybody, this is a wonderful community of people. this is definitely something that you could do for all ages. If you look at my videos, we have 70-year-olds, mid 60-year-olds, 50-year-olds, 40-year-olds. So when people say, "Oh, my knee, oh, my shoulder," like, please, I've broken more things, and but it's just the journey. You just got to get on it and find the right school that calls your name. And the last thing I would also say about that is when you get into a contact style, you have to be a good steward to yourself.
Yeah.
And what I do know is I do find students have a very hard time to say, "Hey, Shion, can you go a little bit easier on me?" Because, and that's the biggest mistake. I yell at my students all the time, just tell them to ease up,
Right.
because what happens is you're never going to get better when you're getting beat up, right?
Right.
Because then you go to defense mode and you're doing things that you're going back to your old habits. So I do tell people, just like, slow it down, chill
Yeah.
out. Like, you want to go hard, we can make that big ring of Oyama, and
Right.
you can get in that middle, and you can tell me if you're the toughest guy in the room.
Right. That's right. Thank you so much, Hanshi, for your time. We really appreciate you.
Yeah,
And
I appreciate you having me on.
yes, and like we said to all of our other guests, we're going to have you back again to have
Yeah,
more deeper conversations.
wonderful.
Good day. Us.
Bruce, thank
All
you so
right.
much.